Respect is a fundamental principle that forms the foundation of all meaningful human interactions. It is not a privilege reserved for certain individuals based on their job title, wealth, or social status. Rather, it is a mutual exchange that validates the humanity in every person. When we enter public spaces, restaurants, offices, or any environment where people serve others, it becomes crucial to remember that respect must flow both ways. The presence of a uniform or a service role does not imply inferiority, nor does it license someone else to speak or behave in a demeaning way. Unfortunately, society sometimes conditions individuals to associate authority or success with dominance, allowing some to forget that those who serve do so with skills, patience, and dignity. It's easy to admire confidence, but when confidence morphs into entitlement, it becomes toxic. The way we treat those we believe have less power than us says more about our character than our achievements ever will. A person who speaks kindly to a CEO but cruelly to a cleaner has not learned the essence of true decency. In real-life situations, especially in service environments, the power dynamics can often go unnoticed by those benefiting from them. A simple command can come off as a demand. A poorly worded complaint can sound like an insult. And when these patterns repeat without reflection, they contribute to a culture where certain people feel unseen or disposable. Yet, every person working in a service role has their own battles, stories, and responsibilities. They are not background characters in someone else's success story. When a person in such a role chooses to uphold their self-respect, even if it means challenging poor behavior, it becomes a powerful reminder that respect is not negotiable. It reinforces the idea that no matter the circumstances, human dignity should never be compromised. This mutual understanding builds healthier communities where no one feels inferior for simply doing their job. It also teaches that true strength lies not in how loudly someone speaks, but in how respectfully they treat others, especially when no one is watching. Power, in any form, be it social influence, financial wealth, or professional status, comes with responsibility. Yet, power also carries the risk of distortion. When individuals gain authority or recognition, there can be a dangerous temptation to assume that the usual rules of conduct no longer apply. This is where behavior becomes a mirror, revealing whether a person uses their power to uplift or to undermine others. The critical truth is this: power never excuses poor behavior. In fact, it amplifies its consequences. In many public or professional settings, there are clear patterns where individuals with elevated positions begin to treat those perceived as below them with less consideration or even open disregard. What may seem like a harmless remark or an impatient tone to the person in power can have lasting emotional effects on the person receiving it. Service workers, assistants, junior staff, these individuals are often expected to tolerate misconduct under the assumption that those in charge mean well or are just under stress. But stress does not justify disrespect, and brilliance does not excuse cruelty. Power should be used as a tool for good leadership, fairness, and example setting. When someone in a powerful position models inappropriate behavior, it sends a damaging message that success can coexist with disrespect, and that reaching a certain level exempts one from basic human decency. This message is corrosive, especially to those looking up to such figures. It begins to shift cultural norms, lowering expectations for ethical behavior among the influential, while simultaneously making the vulnerable feel even more powerless. What often gets overlooked is that the most visible individuals are also the most influential, not just in what they create or lead, but in how they behave. Their interactions become silent lessons for those around them. If someone with power mocks, dismisses, or belittles others, it normalizes such actions, subtly giving others permission to do the same. However, when power is matched with humility, empathy, and restraint, it becomes a force that dignifies everyone involved. The measure of a person is not how they treat their equals, but how they treat those who serve, assist, or depend on them. Power without compassion may build empires, but it erodes character, and without character, influence loses all meaning. Courage often wears quiet clothes. It does not always roar from podiums or lead armies. Sometimes it stands in silence, with steady eyes and an unshaking voice. One of the most overlooked forms of bravery is the kind shown by individuals who stand up against disrespect or mistreatment, especially when they are not in a position of power. This form of courage does not seek attention or praise. It arises out of necessity, a deep sense of self-worth, and an unwillingness to be diminished. There are countless situations, particularly in service or subordinate roles, where individuals are expected to accept poor treatment in silence. Whether it's a dismissive comment, an unfair demand, or overt disrespect, the social pressure often leans heavily toward tolerance. After all, questioning authority or confronting inappropriate behavior can lead to backlash, job loss, or social criticism. But when someone chooses to challenge such conduct, even subtly, they are performing an act of moral courage that ripples far beyond the moment itself. Standing up in these situations requires more than just emotional strength. It demands clarity of values. The individual must weigh the risk of speaking out against the cost of staying silent. In choosing to respond, calmly, firmly, or even assertively, they affirm their own dignity and, in doing so, inspire others to reevaluate what is acceptable behavior. It is not about aggression or retaliation. It is about drawing a boundary where none was expected, reminding the world that no job, uniform, or paycheck should come at the price of self-respect. This type of courage can be contagious. When one person dares to challenge a toxic norm, others begin to find their voice. It sets a new standard, not just for the person being confronted, but for the environment around them. People begin to understand that silence is not always consent, and that respect is not a privilege. It's a baseline requirement. True courage doesn't always change the world overnight. It may not come with applause or recognition. But in that one instant where a person defends their own worth against unjust behavior, they plant a seed of accountability. It may be uncomfortable, it may be risky, but it is brave. And that bravery holds the power to shift not just moments but mindsets. There are moments in life that define not just the situation at hand, but the character of the people involved. These moments often arrive without warning, in ordinary settings, a restaurant, a meeting room, a hallway, yet they hold extraordinary weight. When emotions rise and tensions peak, it becomes evident who operates from a place of integrity and who allows ego or entitlement to take the lead. These moments are not rehearsed or controlled. They are raw, unfiltered, and deeply revealing. In such instances, one person's words or actions may push another to a moral crossroads. How someone reacts in that split second, whether they choose to maintain composure or cross a line, often becomes the story others remember. A calm response in the face of provocation can show restraint and emotional intelligence. Conversely, an outburst of disrespect or arrogance can stain one's image far longer than intended, regardless of prior achievements or status. For the person on the receiving end of that behavior, these moments carry equal significance. They are faced with a choice: to let the offense pass silently or to respond with a boundary, a correction, or even a challenge. When someone chooses the latter, particularly when they stand at a social or professional disadvantage, they transform the moment into a lesson. It becomes clear that while one person may hold status or influence, the other holds self-respect and the courage to assert it. These defining interactions are not measured by the size of the audience or the outcome that follows. Their true value lies in the clarity they bring to a person's principles. The way someone treats another person, when there's nothing to gain, especially when the other is considered less powerful, reveals more than any resume or accolade. A fleeting encounter can become a lifelong impression, showing whether someone is ruled by compassion or consumed by superiority. People often believe that legacy is built through milestones and accomplishments, but legacies are also shaped in these small, unscripted moments of human interaction. They show up later in the way others speak about you, how they remember your presence, and how your actions made them feel. In the end, the behavior displayed during emotionally charged moments becomes the mirror of one's true character, often more powerful than words ever could be. When someone takes a stand against inappropriate behavior, especially in a setting where such behavior has long been tolerated or ignored, It sends out a ripple far beyond that single moment. One act of accountability, whether it's a firm response, a spoken objection, or even a silent refusal to accept mistreatment, becomes more than personal resistance. It becomes an example, and examples have power. In everyday environments, especially those where hierarchies are clear, like restaurants, offices, or service industries, there often exists an unspoken understanding that the person in charge, or the one being served, holds the upper hand. This perceived imbalance can create a culture where disrespect becomes routine, normalized, and even expected. But all it takes is one person to challenge this imbalance to change the narrative. When someone decides to no longer remain silent or submissive in the face of poor behavior, they send a message that certain actions are no longer acceptable. This act of resistance doesn't just address the individual being challenged, it educates everyone who witnesses it. Observers begin to rethink what they previously accepted. They consider how often they've overlooked similar behavior, or how frequently they've chosen silence over confrontation. It invites a broader reflection about the standards we set for how people are treated, regardless of their role or rank. More importantly, it encourages others to speak up in the future, building a culture where accountability becomes the norm, rather than the exception. Even if the confrontation is uncomfortable, or if the person taking a stand faces criticism, the impact of that moment lasts. Over time, these small acts create momentum. People begin to notice the difference between assertiveness and aggression, between confidence and condescension. They become more aware of how behavior influences not just individual relationships, but the tone of entire workplaces and public spaces. Accountability is contagious. When one person models it, others feel empowered to do the same. They realize that upholding respect and dignity is not only a personal responsibility, but a collective one. Each time someone calls out unacceptable conduct, they contribute to a larger shift, one that moves us closer to environments where no one feels invisible, disposable, or disrespected simply because of their position. These ripple effects, though, often quiet, lead to lasting cultural change. In the end, what matters most is not the titles we carry or the positions we hold, but the values we demonstrate through our actions. Respect, empathy, and accountability are not optional. They are the foundation of a just and functional society. When someone chooses to speak out against mistreatment or to hold a mirror to behavior that has gone unchecked for too long, they are not merely defending themselves. They are advocating for a standard that benefits everyone. Moments of conflict, discomfort, or confrontation are often seen as disruptions, but they are also opportunities. They offer a chance to reflect, to adjust, and to grow. They remind us that character is not revealed when things are easy, but when they are difficult. The choices made in those moments echo far beyond the incident. They influence observers, shape culture, and redefine expectations. Whether you are the one in power or the one expected to stay silent, you have a role to play in building environments where dignity is non-negotiable. Change begins not with grand speeches, but with small, courageous acts. An objection, a boundary, a refusal to stay silent. These acts plant seeds that grow into new norms,